Libra, this is your week ahead astrology forecast from Astrology Motivation by Born Without Boundaries. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits and tell you how they're going to impact your natal sun and what that means for your bottom line. All you need to understand these videos is to know what your birth date is, and I will translate the rest for you. We're going to start off really broad with the big global stuff, and then I'm going to whittle that down into Libra specific information, and then I'll break things down into the 3 decans of Libra so you know exactly what aspects are forming to your natal sun and how that can impact you this week. This is for the week of August 8th through the 14th, 2023. We do have a new moon that's actually conjunct to Venus retrograde. Should be interesting. That's coming on August 16th, early in the morning. But since this only goes up to August 14th, I won't really be talking a lot about that. I'll talk about that in next week's video. The big stuff. There's no major transits this week, but we do have some major aspects that are lingering, and one that particularly concerns me is the Neptune opposition. Mars and Neptune will move into opposition with each other at the very end of this week. Arguably, you could say that within 10 degrees, it starts around the 10th or 11th of this week. Ultimately, what that means is a lot of messiness when it comes to our emotions and our feelings and our head. A lot of reactivity when it comes to trying to overcompensate or feeling completely inadequate or for perceived inadequacies. This could really start to majorly play with our minds, especially this week as Mercury conjuncts Mars, and then you have that combined energy of the thought process plus the action mixed up together. And with the opposition to Neptune, this could be quite distorting and disorienting, could be depressing, as well as almost creating a situation of being reactionary because of, like I said, perceived inadequacies. So it could be a very difficult week, if not for you personally, then for other people. So just so that you know, this is also global energy, so I don't know how it's impacting everybody's chart, but since it is global energy, you could start seeing people trying to cover their tracks, people trying to overreact or overcompensate for things that are really hurting them and extremely emotional now. There could be a lot of emotions that are just running crazy and running wild that they're not easily able to contain, and this could have quite the impact on especially anything that has tried to intentionally deceive or being illusionary, or anything that was illusionary kind of crumbling and coming down and really causing a great deal of sadness in people. So it, like I said, it may not be directly impacting you, but it certainly could be impacting people and situations around you. So that is definitely something to be wary of, at least in terms of being compassionate, at the very least, right? We have the Mercury-Mars conjunction all week long. This is going to be trying to Jupiter, which means that there is expansion and there is growth, but there's also, especially when those two go in opposition to Neptune, there is also exaggeration because Jupiter is also involved. So there could be a lot of taking things like bigger than they are, perceiving them to be bigger than they are, and reacting to almost like a shadow on a wall. Like, you know, you can do those little puppet monsters and they look really big and you're reacting to that when in reality it wasn't that big at all. So there could be a lot of overreaction and taking things way more seriously than they were. That is starting to happen around this time. We also have the sun is going to be conjuncting Venus this week. This tends to be an actually beautiful energy and something you guys should be particularly aware of because Venus is your ruling dignitary. Venus is still in Leo. The sun is still in Leo. They will conjunct by the 9th, which is just the next day after this reading comes out. And then there will be both square to Uranus, which means a demand for change, a demand for, staking a claim to your individuality and your uniqueness and not wanting to fit in, especially old boxes that you've put yourself in for maybe too long. So all of this could also lead to unexpected romances, odd attractions, being oddly attracted to people that you never assumed you'd be attracted to. And if this is the case, it may last during this aspect, during this conjunction, but it won't last for much longer. This is going to be in retrograde until September 4th. This could really last. These attractions could last a while, or these situationships, this is a good word for them, could last a while and then not last much beyond that, because there will be a sort of normalcy that you start to settle back into. But it's like the universe is intentionally trying to rile us up and mix things up and intentionally cause things to be quite frustrating right now. Let's get into, or let me point out the Libra specific information. So what do? I take what is happening in Libra, the actual zodiac sign of Libra, and then I take what is happening with its ruling dignitary, Venus. So Venus is in retrograde still. It's going to move or retrograde in Leo between 23 degrees and 29 degrees this week. It is going to be conjunct the sun, which overall is an exceptionally romantic and optimistic energy that it creates. Especially in Leo, it's going to want to be seen, it's going to want to be paid attention to, it's going to want to be heard, it's going to want to be successful and be told it's successful. It's going to be very romantic. It's going to be very demonstrative in its affection. It's going to be really just outwardly flamboyant in a way, I would say. It's also by the 8th going to be square to Uranus, and on the 8th Uranus is going to be conjunct the moon. So on the 8th, which is today if you're watching this when the video debuts, you're going to have Venus conjunct the sun square Uranus conjunct the moon, and that could make for an odd mix of attraction and self-actualization. Let's put it that way. That could be quite the odd day, just an FYI. In Libra, we have the South Node at 27 degrees. It will remain at 27 degrees all week long. That means for those of you who are Libra 3s, and I'll get into exactly who that is, but if you know you're a Libra 3, that means your natal suns are going to be conjunct that South Node. Your natal suns are going to be conjunct the South Node and opposite the North Node for the next about 6 months. So expect that. But that's pretty much all that's going on in the zodiac sign of Libra right now. Let's move on to the decans. So if you know that your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Libra, it is in the first decan of Libra, and you are Libra 1s. This correlates to Libra birthdays pretty much in September. Anyone born between September 22nd and, say, October 1st would be Libra 1. Your natal suns are actually semi-square to the sun, which can cause some energy issues or some self-esteem issues, some questioning your sense of who you are. And then we also have a semi-square to Venus, since they are going to be conjunct for most of this week. So that could arise some major self-doubt. Now understand, this doesn't mean that it's actually people disregarding you. It just means that there's a perception inside of you that it feels doubtful of your, like, has a lower sense of self-esteem or a lower sense of beauty, or somehow is clashing, maybe even financially, with any kind of value that you think that you're getting, and or you think you're being devalued or not getting as much money as you expected from your pay raise, or it's not going to be something you can't overcome. It's just a semi-square. So what it's probably going to do is just play on you and how you feel about who you are, which could also play on other things. So the best thing for you guys to do this week, take a deep breath, allow yourself self-care, allow yourself compassion for you, and then just give yourself the space and the rest that you need. I wouldn't be too worried if they were even if they were separated, like if they were, a semi-square to one thing and a semi-square to another. But this is a semi-square to this conjunction, which is quite powerful and potent, since it is in Leo. That's where the sun is strongest, and it is where Venus kind of is high maintenance, let's put it that way. So we have a lot of energy that your natal suns are going to be semi-square to, and you should just be aware that there could be a lot of agitation, irritation. For some of you, it could just be a stubbornness and a relentlessness, but it's not something you can't overcome or that will overcome you. It will just stir the pot a bit, just an FYI. For those of you who know your Libra 2s, Libra 2s are between 10 and 19 degrees Libra. This usually correlates to birthdays between October 2nd and October 11th. Libra 2s, through the 12th of this month, your natal suns are going to be sextile to the sun and sextile to Jupiter. If they're sextile to the sun, that means they're also going to be sextile to Venus. So very unlike Libra 1s, this could be a quite potent and powerful week for you, filled with confidence as well as progress. You will get attention this week. You will feel beautiful. You will look beautiful. You will radiate beauty, and there can be some really great news financially coming in, something that will help to activate and create opportunity for you. There is a quincunx to Jupiter, which with a natal sun quincunx to Jupiter just means that you're it's like internal agitation. You can't even move fast enough. You want something to move quickly, and you want to push it along to the point where you could be getting ahead of yourself. So just an FYI, because with the sextile to the sun conjunct Venus, you don't really have to really worry about getting ahead of yourself. Good things will happen for you this week. It'll just be like finding that faith to believe it. And then you also have a long-term opposition to Chiron, which is tough energy. I mean, it's feeling like you're not good enough, which could also play on the quincunx to Jupiter, feeling like you have to overcompensate in some way. This week especially, you absolutely do not. You do not. There's a lot of blessings with those two sextiles, or with that sextile to that conjunction. It's a lovely conjunction. And even though the blessings may surprise you, since this is a conjunction that is also square to Uranus, it will still be blessings. Just an FYI. Now we have Libra 3. So if you know that your natal sun is located between 20 and 29 degrees Libra, you are Libra 3s. This correlates to birthdays between October 12th and, say, the 22nd. It's an estimate, but it's around there. Now, you have your natal suns have a long-term square to Pluto, which means there's a lot of almost like formidable energy about you right now, and you could get really cut and dry with people and have a relentless energy, even a sense of gravity or darkness about your nature that isn't usually there, but that'll be there for the next couple of years. So it is powerful energy. It doesn't have to necessarily be bad, but it is something to be aware of, because it'll be in the background of everything you do, and you could be more inclined to take things to the extreme that you may not want to take them when your natal suns are in square to Pluto. So just to be aware of it is to be able to direct it. Do you know what I'm saying? You also have, at least for the next 6 months, conjunction to the South Node. You guys are the ones conjunct to the South Node in opposition to the North Node. Combined with that square to Pluto, that means there's a lot of changes in your life. You know, and conjunct to the South Node, you may have gotten a little bit too cozy and cushy, and Pluto's going to make sure it churns things up. And that could be what's happening right now, especially with partnerships, relationships, intimate partnerships, people that you were really connected with, versus claiming your own independence and not being afraid to be alone. This week, you have a sextile to Venus retrograde all week long. Now I know, so Libra 2s, technically your sun is not sextile to Venus until the very end of the week when it goes back into 19 degrees. But because the sun, which your natal suns are sextile to all week, because it's in the second decan of of Leo, your natal sun, there's a combine there, because there's a conjunction between these two energies. So Libra 3s, your natal suns are sextile to Venus retrograde, not necessarily sextile to the sun, though those of you born in the early phases of the third decan, say around the 11th, 12th, 13th, those of you will be conjunct to that. You will be sextile to that sun. but all of you are sextile to Venus up through the very end of this week until it retrogrades back to 19 degrees Libra. What does that mean? Libra's energy is combining with the sun. It's conjuncting with the sun. There's a connection between that energy. So even though your natal suns are specifically sextile to Venus, you're still going to feel that huge boost of energy, of sexiness, of sex appeal, of romance, of feeling valuable, of feeling flirtatious, of feeling... So Libra 2s, it's going to be more about feeling confident and radiant. For you guys, it's going to be more about feeling sexy and appealing and sensual. You could also be a Libra 3s, extra attracted to decadent things, indulgent things, especially with that square to Pluto. You could go overboard when it comes to decadent, indulgent things. But either way, I think y'all going to be having a pretty good time this week. By the 12th, your natal suns will be sextile to the sun as well as Venus, because the sun will finally move into, I think, 20 degrees Leo. But all week long, you'll be feeling this extra sensuality, sexiness. I want to be seen, popular. I feel like I think of Glinda the Good Witch with the song Popular from Wicked. You know what? That's what I think of with the sun conjunct Venus. There's a grace to it, there's an elegance, but there's also a flamboyant confidence about it that can be very playful, especially when it's sextile to your natal sun. You have a long-term quincunx to Uranus as well, which could mean that very strange, wonderful, and odd things are happening, and you could be perfectly fine with that this week. Let me know in the comments below, Libras, how you're being impacted by this natal energy. And then please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and enjoy these videos every single week when they come out. I do one for all 12 zodiac signs. Then come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your weekly tarot card message. I love you guys. I'll see you in the videos.